talking to parents about their students' progress can feel a little bit intimidating, and sharing screening results is no different. So, how should you approach this? I'm Stephanie, and I support educators to improve reading outcomes by learning about and implementing the science of reading. I'm going to be sharing with you a video where I'm attempting to model what it might look like and sound like to walk through sharing the beginning of the year screening results with a child's parents. I'm using in this example a first grade student. I'm going to name them Johnny Jones. And I'm using as the example Acadience Reading Universal Screening, the measures that are typically used at the beginning of first grade. But if you have a different universal screener, you can just think about filling in the blanks that are relevant with the assessment that you use. You're going to hear me describing at the beginning of first grade a student who's struggling really across the board with everything that was assessed. So as you're watching this video, I'd like you to watch for a couple of things. You'll listen for the way that I describe the universal screening, how I set up what it is that we're trying to do with this activity. I want you to also listen for the way that I describe each of the assessments and the expectations for students on each of those measures. And then listen for the way that I talk about the difficulty that the student had, specifically what we at the school are going to be doing about it, how the parent might be able to help support what we're doing at school if they are able to do that at home. And also listen for how I describe what the parent can expect going forward in terms of communication from the school, monitoring progress, and so forth. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. Remember to watch for those key points that I described. Hi, Mrs. Jones. Thanks for coming in today to talk about Johnny's screening results. As you know, we screen all of our first grade students at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. We don't want to wait to find out who might be a struggling reader at the end of first grade. We want to screen everybody at the beginning of the year on some key skills that indicate if a student might have trouble reading in the future, so that we don't get to that point. We can do something about it now to prevent any future problems. So I sat down with Johnny and did some of the screening indicators that we use with all students at the beginning of first grade. We used something called phoneme segmentation fluency, or PSF, to get an indication of Johnny's ability to hear the sounds in words that we speak. So on this 1-minute activity, I would say a word like cat, and I asked him to say the sounds in the word k, at. I also screened him on something called nonsense word fluency, or NWF. This is an indicator of students being able to match those sounds in words to letters. And it has 2 scores. We're looking to see that they can match sounds and letters, and also that they can blend those letter sounds to be able to read words. And this test uses non-words, words that aren't real, words like diff or LUT or sim, so that we take out the possibility that the student can read the word because they've seen it before. That might happen if we used real words. So we use words that are consonant, vowel, consonant patterns, or vowel consonant patterns, so that we can test when the student comes to a string of letters, are they so automatic with their letter sounds and their ability to blend letter sounds that they can read that string even if it's not a real word. This will be really helpful in the future when they start reading big words. I also did a 1-minute activity called letter naming fluency. This one has a page of uppercase and lowercase letters that I put in front of Johnny, and we're interested in how many he can name in a minute. So all of these activities are timed. They're 1 minute maximum. We're looking for not just can the student perform the skill accurately, but can they do it automatically without thinking about it? Because these skills are important as foundations for reading comprehension in the future. So here's how Johnny did on the 3 tests that I did with him at the beginning of first grade. And he had difficulty with all 3 of these. So this is why we wanted to talk to you. It's nothing to be alarmed about right now. We call this dyslexia screening because dyslexia is a very common form of a reading disability, and it's really helpful if we catch it early. We can actually prevent reading disabilities and reading difficulties like dyslexia. We can minimize the impact if students have dyslexia by catching it early and providing intervention early. So that's the goal here. Johnny had difficulty naming letters. He named just 8 of them within the minute. So that's something that we're going to be working on. He also had difficulty saying the sounds in the words that I spoke. So that was the phoneme segmentation fluency assessment. We want students to score at least 40 on this one. And so Johnny's score of 18 was well below the expectation, the minimum expectation for the beginning of first grade. So this is a concern. This is something that we want to be working on with Johnny, and we want to get on that as soon as possible. He also had difficulty with nonsense word fluency, NWF. I mentioned there's 2 scores to that one. On the correct letter sounds score, we want students to be at least 27, and he had 12. So looking at something like DIF and being able to say the sounds diff or if, he couldn't really match very many letter sounds. And the second part of nonsense word fluency is whole words read, where we want the student to not have to go sound by sound to read, but to be able to look at DIF and just say diff. And the minimum expectation at the beginning of first grade is to do at least 1 word that way in the minute, and he wasn't yet able to do any. So this is why we have some concerns. This is why we're going to be creating a plan for Johnny. We're going to be specifically working on his ability to build on what he can do a little bit of right now, which is identify the individual sounds in spoken words and then match those sounds to letters. So we'll be working on letter names and sounds, and we're also going to be teaching him how to write those letters so that he can not only read, but also spell. So here are the things that we're going to be doing in the classroom. And then you would explain whatever those interventions are. We are going to be monitoring his progress with this phoneme segmentation fluency. We'll be tracking to make sure that he gets caught up to that minimum of 40. And we're going to set a goal for that by about the 1st of November. And you can expect to hear from me in about 6 weeks. I'm going to let you know how he's tracking towards that goal of 40. And once he reaches that, then we're going to be monitoring his progress on nonsense word fluency towards the goals that we have for the middle of the school year. So if you are interested in doing some things with him at home, here are some ideas about the ways you can support him. And let me know if you have any questions, and you'll be hearing from me in 6 weeks.